You hear all these conspiracy theories about the Talmud, so maybe you should actually read it before having an opinion. So, last year I started reading the Talmud. And I know that sentence alone is going to make some people go, wait, isn't that book all that weird conspiracy BS around it? Because, yeah, if you're online long enough, you've probably had or heard some absolutely bizarre claims about it. Like, genuinely strange stuff. And stuff that is not true. And stuff that's rooted in a word that I can't really say on YouTube at the moment for some reason. And I think it's one of those things you hear about enough times, and you, even if you don't believe it, it kind of sits in the back of your head. I knew some of it. I grew up with it in one form or another. But going back and reading it all, expecting something that was heavy, closed off, maybe a bit intimidating, like you needed permission to understand it. But then I actually opened it. And I mean this in a good way. It's basically people arguing, debating, conversations. No one's trying to win, which is refreshing. More like, imagine a room full of very opinionated, very intelligent people who refuse to let anything go unexamined. And they're not trying to shut each other up. They're trying to push each other further. That's what it feels like. Which surprised me. It's not really a book in the way people think. It's not like, here are rules, follow them, end of discussion. It's more like, here's a conversation that started and it never really stopped. You've got rabbis disagreeing with each other, questioning each other, sometimes completely shutting each other down and then coming back to it. And then someone come along 200 years later and goes, yeah, but what if they're both wrong? That it's debate. And no one steps in and go, alright, final answer, let's wrap this up. It just keeps going. I think the first thing that kind of breaks your brain a bit with it is not what you're expecting. Because we're used to being things being packaged. We want a conclusion. We want something, so what's the takeaway? And the Talmud just sort of shrugs and goes, figure it out. And the topics aren't just, religious stuff. It's everything. How you treat people, how you raise your kids, what fairness actually means, what responsibilities look like when no one's watching. And then it'll just pivot into something really specific, like what happens if two people both claim ownership of the same object? And you're reading it thinking, okay, this is oddly practical. And suddenly it zooms out into something more philosophy based. Even intimacy and relationships come up. And I don't mean in that vague, distant way. I mean in a very real human way. Like, they aren't abstract thinkers floating above life. They're in it. They're dealing with the same awkward, complicated, messy parts of being human that we are. And that's the bit that caught me off guard. Because I was expecting something distant. I was something that felt ancient in a way that I couldn't connect to. But instead, it felt current. It felt like now. The same problems, the same discussions we are having today. Like you're reading people who are just trying to figure out life the same as we are. They're just doing it across centuries without group chats and comment sections. And the structure is absolute chaos. And I don't mean bad chaos. But it takes a second to get your head around it. You've got a central part of the text and then commentary around it. And there's commentary on the commentary, and sometimes the commentary is completely different. Opinion just drops in, like, no, don't argue with any of this. Instead of cleaning it up, they leave it there. And that's the part I genuinely respect, because there's no attempt to pretend anyone agrees. It's no attempt to tidy it up in clean, perfect. It's messy, it stays messy. And I don't know why, but it feels honest. More honest than a lot of modern stuff. Because now everything feels like it has to be presented as complete, like you've got it figured out, like you've got a take. Where this is, no. Here just faults. Here's something. Here's someone else's fault. Here's why they disagree. Here's why they agree. And here's something 300 years later. You've all missed the point. I think that's why the conspiracy stuff feels so off once you actually read it, because the idea that this is some kind of scary, controlling, unyielding text, it doesn't match reality. It's not one voice, it's not controlling. It's dozens, hundreds of voices disagreeing, building on each other, sometimes completely contradicting each other. It's not control, it's conversation. And honestly, it's a bit chaotic in the best way, because you can feel the humanity in it, you can feel the ego sometimes, you can feel the frustration, you can feel what someone's thinking. And you can feel it when someone's like, no, you're overcomplicating this. And I love they didn't edit that out. They could have. They could have gone back and smoothed it into one consistent narrative, but they didn't. They kept the arguments, they kept the disagreements, they kept the uncertainty. And I don't want to sit here and pretend I understand it completely. I don't. Some of it goes over my head. Some of it I'm rereading and have reread 3 times. Some of it I've probably missed the point entirely. And there are definitely moments where I just sat there like, I have no idea what's happening right now. But even at that, it's refreshing because it doesn't feel like you're being talked down to. It feels like you're being invited to the conversation. Here's the discussion, sit with it, wrestle with it, contradict it, change your opinion. Say it, say what you think and see what you think, if that makes sense. And I think there's one thing I keep coming back to. It's not about arriving at a correct answer. It's about the process of thinking, of questioning, of not just accepting something because it's written down somewhere, which ironically is probably the exact opposite of what people assume it is. Because I think a lot of people imagine it as this rigid, unquestionable authority. And what I'm seeing is the exact opposite. It's structured disagreements. It's encouraging questioning. It pushes back on people, challenges, refines. And maybe that's uncomfortable for some people because it doesn't give you a clean takeaway. It doesn't let you walk away going, right, I got the answers now. It leaves things open. We're not great at doing that, especially now, because everything has to be defined. A point, a moment. No. And this is also me being honest. It's kind of comforting in a really strange way. Because you realise people have always been like this. They've always argued about what's right or wrong. They've always disagreed about how to live. They've always tried to make sense of relationships, responsibilities, and communities. That's not new. They just have better Wi-Fi now. And worse comment sections. I'm dreading the comments on this video. But the core of it, it's the same. People trying to make sense of the things that don't always have easy answers. And there's something grounding about that because it makes all of this, all the noise, all the debates, all the disagreements now feel less unique, less like everything's falling apart, and more like, no, that's just what humans do. We argue, we question, we try to understand, we get things wrong, we correct each other, we make each other mad. And then someone comes along later and corrects that. So yeah, I don't really have a big conclusion here. I'm still reading it and rereading it, and I will probably be reading it for the rest of my life. Still figuring it out, and I will probably never truly have the answers. And still having those moments where I pause and go, I need to sit with that for a bit. But I think if you strip away all the noise around it, you're left with something incredibly human. Not mysterious, not this untouchable thing, not this scary hidden text people like to project conspiracy theories into. Just generations of people thinking out loud, arguing, questioning, trying to be a little closer to understanding something they'll never fully understand. And honestly, I think that's more relatable than I expected. Like I said, this is something I'm going to probably be going back to for the rest of my life.